Thank you so much. I'm very pleased. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm very pleased and very excited to be given this opportunity to speak to you today. I would like to specifically speak about things that are important to today's young people. But most importantly, I would like to congratulate the organizers of this summit. You guys have done incredible work. You've put in effort, and I can see that the fruits of your labor are very evident based on the number of people you've brought together, but also most importantly, your energy, your idealism, and your abilities to convene young people from across different sectors. As stated in the introduction by the moderator, my name is Brighton Kaoma, and I am the Global Youth Director for the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. When I reflect back on my own personal journey, I can see my story in so many young people. I can see my story in so many children. I can also see my story in the work that all of you are passionate about, the work of bringing sustainability to the world. I was born in a very typical African community, no tarred roads, no piped water. But one thing that nobody wanted to speak about was how from time to time, the community would be affected by floods, unprecedented rainfall patterns, high levels of precipitation, but also the levels of pollution. But I realized that at a time when nobody wanted to speak about these things, it was my responsibility, despite being 14 years old, to start running radio and community campaigns. And these campaigns were aimed at raising awareness, but also calling to action certain things that were happening and just reminding leaders about the things that they're supposed to do. So when I reflect back on this journey, it makes me realize that you are not too young to lead. You are not too young to lead wherever you are. If you have ideas, if you have thoughts, if you want to do anything, don't wait for anybody's permission to go ahead. Invent, innovate, take risks, and collaborate with others. Because in this particular decade of action, where between now and 2030, we have so many things that we need to achieve. We have incredible ambitious goals, but what makes these goals even interesting is that they're very achievable. If we can work together, if we can collaborate, we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. But the Sustainable Development Goals cannot be achieved by a magic wand. They can only be achieved by our daily actions, our daily ideas. But what makes our ideas even more relevant is shifting them from ideas to actions. So we need to start shifting from intention to action. How do we shift from intention to action? We shift from intention to action by working with others, by creating alliances, by collaborating, and most importantly, by learning new things, learning new skills. And that's something that I want to speak about next. Always pursue knowledge, always pursue skills, create networks where you can learn something new. When you're young, you have the opportunities to learn as much as you can. You have the time and you have the opportunities now in this digital space to harness this digital revolution by getting yourself in front of learning opportunities. So always pursue knowledge. Thirdly, I would like to speak about investing in the future. And investing in the future is making sure that you create opportunities. I mean, make sure that you acquire the necessary competencies, make sure that you acquire the skills necessary that can make you transform into a global leader in the next years. But above all, think about collaboration. If there's one thing that you should pick up from my conversation with you today, is about collaboration. Work with others, reach out. If there are people that are in different parts of the world that you think we can work with, reach out to them. Tell them about what you're doing. Tell them about why you think it's relevant for you to work with them. Sell your ideas and position yourself to be able to create change at scale. It's very possible. And I've seen that through collaboration, we can achieve so many things. Most importantly, think about ways through which you can also take care of yourself. At a time like now when COVID-19 is affecting communities, it's affecting individuals, think about your mental well-being, think about your mental health, think about how you can also take care of the people around you. Share recommendations for programs, share recommendations for trainings, share recommendations for conferences, and build a community of like-minded people that can help you achieve your goals. If you have a community of supportive, like-minded people, even achieving the goals of your initiatives and your projects will be extremely, extremely possible. Even in your individual schools, be an active citizen. Be that person that always leads. Be that person that always leads by example. You don't have to do big things. You don't have to swash a magic wand to create change. It begins by the little things, done incrementally. We already know that in the next few years, in the next coming decade, we'll be reflecting back on what we've achieved in this decade of action. But achieving all the goals set in the Sustainable Development Goals rests on you and me, the 1.8 billion people around the world. And if we decide not to become active citizens, then posterity will judge us harshly. Then the world is going to be doomed. So always endeavor to be an active citizen, always endeavor to lead by example, and believe that it's always critical to think globally and act locally. You don't need rocket science ideas. Trust and believe in your thoughts and your ideas, and collaborate with others to move your ideas from intention to action. But most importantly, just be different. Be an example in your school. Be an example in your university. Always be that person that guides, the person that cares, the person that reminds people who are going astray to come back into course. Always be the leader. And the leader is the one who takes responsibility. And if we consider ourselves as the future leaders of today, then we need to take responsibility. Take responsibility for your actions. Because hesitate to reach out to people who work with you. And in the next course of this summit, I implore you to make sure that at the end, create an alliance, create a collaboration, make new friends, people that you thought you would never meet. And afterwards, create those meaningful alliances. Because the people that you change the world with are people that you're meeting in events like this. It's the people that you're meeting in summits like this. I've seen the power of events, because then they unlock opportunities for friendship, opportunities for collaboration, opportunities for co-creation of solutions. And I'm excited, extremely excited that all of you took the time in a very busy schedule, coming from so diverse backgrounds, from different, extremely powerful. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, as an initiative, is happy to be a partner at this summit. And we are happy to provide the supports that we can provide. Always know that we'll be there for you, we'll support you, we'll give you the needed direction, we'll provide the mentorship necessary, we'll give you a platform to network and make new friends and foster relationships, because that's why we exist. And in summary, I wish to just implore the organizers once more for putting together this incredibly auspicious event. I know the wheels started turning before today, and I'm excited to see that it has come to an incredible event such as this one today. I'll end here and very happy to engage with you. Very happy to request any questions, and very happy to engage in a dialogue.
Thank you so much, Britain, and it was amazing to hear from you those inspirational words. And sure, yeah, we can have some Q&A. So if you all have any questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll get them answered from Britain for you. So one of the questions I see in the chat already is your progress right from a young enthusiast to many awards and now as a director of SDS in youth is tremendous. So was there any role model for you that you followed right from high school?
Yes, I did. And I think I'd like to speak about role modeling. Always identify a role model in your community, a role model globally, because then they act as the North Star, because you then follow some of the things that they did and you avoid specific mistakes. I did have specific role models. Of course, when I was growing up, I, to a greater extent, looked up to specific global leaders and local leaders. Locally, I looked up to somebody that I met at one of the conferences like this. His name was Hamid El-Bashir. Hamid El-Bashir was born in Sudan, and at a very young age, he did struggle until he decided to take himself to school. He found opportunities and ended up putting himself in a primary school to learn. Fast forward, Hamid El-Bashir became the UNICEF country representative for Zambia, and now is the UN country representative in different countries across Africa. There's something that he taught me when I had the privilege of meeting him. He kept saying, always and always be true to yourself. Have integrity, do the right thing even when nobody sees you, because that's what is going to set you apart. He emphasized the relevance of keeping yourself occupied in extracurricular activities, because you learn so much beyond the boundaries of the classroom. So when I reflect on his life and his mentorship, I begin to realize that it's not only in the four walls of a classroom that learning happens. Learning happens in platforms like this. Learning happens in the environment we fashion ourselves in. That's why your environment plays a critical role. Surround yourself with people that can give you direction, people that can teach you something, people that you can teach something, people that are grounded in specific strong values, people that are going to help you become a better person and the best version of yourself. So that's one person that I followed for a long time. Secondly, I also looked up to, from a very global perspective, looked up to Trevor Noah, was a comedian and a celebrated comedian, because when I reflect on his life, I see so many intersectionalities between his journey growing up in a township and how I was raised. It was a fun, upbringing, and I could see it in Trevor Noah. But most importantly, it turned around his passion into a career. He's somebody that grew up enjoying jokes. He's somebody that grew up enjoying entertaining people. And at a very young age, he decided to use radio. He became a radio DJ. And I became a radio personality as well when I was 14. So I could see similarities in my journey and his journey. And he used the power of storytelling, telling your story in the most authentic way, because that's the only thing that you own. It's like your fingerprints. Your story is unique. My story won't be any other person's story. So always think about harnessing the power of your story and telling your story in the most authentic ways. Because then you can use your story to inspire others. Other people can relate with your story and they can get inspired. So those are the two people that I looked up to. And also lastly, I looked up to President Barack Obama because of his ethical leadership and his ability to bring people together and inspire them for action.
Really insightful, and love those details that you presented, and love that idea that when you follow someone, you learn how not to make mistakes and how to progress at the same time. So really a great example. And here we move to the next second question. So we have a question asking, what is something that you wish you knew before you started your career fighting for the sustainable development goals?
That's a very good question. I wish I knew that change begins with you as an individual. Change, before it radiates to anybody else, it begins with you. And that you are the container that needs to carry that change. And if you're the container that needs to carry that change, then what do you? It can provide you with directions on what skills do you need to learn, what opportunities do you need to leverage. So that's the number one thing that I learned. Number two, I learned that there are so many talented young people. I wish I actually came to realize that there were so many talented young people out there. All they need are opportunities. And these opportunities are not rocket science opportunities. It might mean just speaking to them, encouraging them, giving them words of hope. That makes a difference. At the moment you realize that there's so many young people that are in disadvantaged positions, then it can inspire you to even become more passionate about what you do. And that has helped me to also just have interest in anthropology, to learn about how do other people live outside of my location? How do other people coexist? How are their cultures? And I think that to a great extent helps you as a young person to appreciate diversity, to appreciate that it's okay to be different, to appreciate that it's okay to come from a specific socioeconomic standing. So those are the key things that I learned.
Awesome. So change begins with us, and there are many people to collaborate with. So I guess here we at Immune Impact have done a great job bringing these close-knit community that we all can take our work forward from. Awesome insights. So next question, how do we change people's minds about current issues, especially like climate change, women right? And what was your secret recipe for the same?
That's a very good question, Vidant. Extremely important question when you think about it, because I didn't recognize when I started doing my work that when I was very young, when I was a child, that communication becomes important. When you are changing people's behavior, people are inspired by realizing that they have a role to play in a problem and that they have the competencies necessary for them to take action. And that's where communication becomes important. Communication and crafting a story so that it's relatable to your constituencies. That's why I believe strongly in storytelling. Because if you want to change people's behaviors, for example, towards reusing their plastic bags or reusing their clothes, you have to then tell a story from the standpoint of what positive outcomes can be born out of such actions, because then it inspires people. It releases the dopamine necessary for them to feel motivated to take action. So I think behavioral change begins by, number one, using authentic stories and anecdotes of how those specific practices have worked elsewhere. If I'm giving people a solution about something, I want to show them evidence of how it has worked elsewhere and how we can be able to customize it to our needs. But to convince people, that's where the element of storytelling comes in. Um, how do you communicate about sustainable development to the climate crisis in a language people understand? We might think we need to communicate the jargon that we listen to in big international negotiations and conferences. That's not the case. It's a simple language that people can relate with, that people can understand. That's why even in your respective schools and universities and organizations, simplify communication, make communication so palatable and digestible to the people that you work with, because then you'll be preaching to the converted. If you want to preach to people that are not converted, those who need to be converted, then you need to speak in a language that they understand. But also show passion. Develop a strong passion for what you're doing, because that's when people can believe and follow you. If you're not exhibiting passion, then people don't see a need to bandwagon with you. So it becomes even more relevant to develop strong passion. And for you to develop strong passion, you need to understand that which you're advocating for. And that's where summits like this come in. That's where other events come in. That's where career development courses come in. Always learn. If you have an interest in neuroscience, if you have an interest in education, learn about different ways of delivering education to different people from different socioeconomic standings. If you are interested in the climate crisis, understand what causes the climate crisis. Look at all these different things. And then that way people will see that you care about what you're talking about and you're passionate about what you're talking about.
Very true. You literally explained the whole importance of communication, because as you said, even if you have technical solutions, till someone explains it to the world, it's difficult to accept. So amazing. Another question is, what are your strategies when it comes to having to collaborate with people of different backgrounds? Some are little more reserved, and some can be dominating in a group discussion or in a community as a whole. How do you create that comfortable discussion environment when you are in a new environment?
Thanks, Vedant, and thanks for that question. I think it's really making everybody welcome. And I think making it very explicit that wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you believe in, it does not matter. What matters is our ideas and our common intention of creating a better world. I think what really brings us together is more important than that which divides us. And if we have to work collaboratively and break dominant personalities in groups, we need to be united by the things that bring us together, the things that really bind us: love, empathy, sympathy. All those things bring us together, irrespective of where you come from. Loving your neighbor becomes important. Loving the next person next to you becomes important. Being empathetic to those who are in need and not being a bystander becomes important. So really weighing into the things that really binds us together and brings us together becomes even more and more important. And I think that's what we need to preach before really emphasizing what divides us. So beyond the divergent views and opinions, I think emphasizing what brings us together becomes even more important. And more importantly, I think we need to recognize that we are stronger together, just like communities. Even in ecosystems, individuals are not strong. Communities are stronger because they come in numbers. If a community of species is stronger, then it's really hard for any invasive species to intrude. And that's one thing that even ecosystems teach us. Ecosystem teaches collaboration. Ecosystems teaches cooperation. Ecosystems teach us co-initiation of solutions. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from nature. And those are the things that we should bring into teams to celebrate diversity and recognize that it's okay to be different. It's not okay to divert from the fundamentals of life. It's not okay to infringe another person's fundamental human rights. And I think those things become even more and more critical.
Very true. And really love the message that you gave. In short, is to catch the common thread towards achieving the common ground for the goals. So yeah, we all need to do this. Next question is a bit interesting one. So the question says, Mr. Briston, according to your opinion, what can the UN be doing better than now to engage youth in a lot more meaningful way?
Thanks, Vedant, for this question. When you look at the specific goals that have been set in the Sustainable Development Accord, for example, on the African continent, we have the African Union Agenda 2063. We have so many agreements that have been entered into. What becomes even more important is always thinking about intergenerational equity, because it's young people like yourselves and myself who are going to bear the brunt of the consequences of today's inaction. So when you think about the climate crisis, the melting ice caps, the floods in Southern Africa and droughts, the locust invasion in East Africa, human rights infringements happening from around the world, all rest on the shoulders of us young people today. And I think it gives us an opportunity to learn as much as we can and to speak up and not be afraid of voicing our opinions and thoughts. The United Nations as well even has a more critical role to play in this case, in bringing young people together, ensuring that countries respect the rights of children and youth, ensuring that there is meaningful engagement and there's not tokenistic engagement whatsoever. And already we are seeing that there's progress being made in ensuring that the voice of the youth is heard. Look at Fridays for the Future and how young people are stopping at nothing to express themselves. Look at a summit like today's summit. Young people are coming in numbers to collaborate and work together and find solutions to our common problems. I think we're seeing all these examples. But institutions like the UN, the G7, all have a much huge role to play in ensuring that there's leadership provided, in ensuring that there's meaningful engagement of young people, and in ensuring that countries that have committed to these international instruments domesticate them and ensure that young people are involved in the implementation of such accords and principles and conventions. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The international community has a lot of work that needs to be done. And young people like yourselves and myself should not stop. We should not stop speaking up. We should not stop advocating, because that's what